Next topic is that about minority issue in Hungary, minority people, which relate to Romani. I think Romani is the official name, right? Official name instead of using the gypsy. Actually, not only Hungary issue, but also in all European issue as well.
Basic immigration, okay.
Yeah. According to my information in the internet, that they migrate from 16th century, 15th century.
That's correct.
Yeah, 16th century to come to Europe from the Asia, and mainly they face the discrimination from main society.
Oh yeah, they do.
In Hungary as well, but their population is not big, not big, but not small even. Not small, which is more than
They're quite visible, basically.
3% or 3 to 5% in the total population in Hungary as well.
See, you do see a lot of them in the capital in Budapest, but there are on the countryside they make up a larger portion of the population. Before we get to the immigration, I just like to clarify a couple of things. So you have to know about gypsies or Roma people, that they have immigrated into Hungary some 500 years ago from India, and there's nothing wrong with that. They have a very different lifestyle than we do. They used to live a more nomadic lifestyle and a more traditional lifestyle. They used to move around Europe and other places of the world in their wagons, and you always hear about fortune tellers and horse traders and all that kind of stuff. The problems, right, in the eye of the rest of the Hungarian population who despise gypsies, is that they don't want to lose their old traditions in a way. So they have a very, very different moral system than we Hungarians do. For example, just to bring up a few examples, the children get married usually around the age of 15, and 15, yes, and they start having babies the same year or around the age of 16. So by the time a gypsy woman is 40 years old, she is very well a grandmother at the age of 40. When they are doing business and when they are trying to do business, they are not necessarily taking the lawful path. And you see all these people haggling around with souvenirs and belts, like leather belts and socks, and all of these merchandise on the street, at the railway station. Those are the things that people don't like. Is that I'm not saying that all of them, but there are quite a few of them who are not willing to accept the laws and the unwritten rules of our society, and therefore they make the impression that they're not trying to integrate at all. Of course, people who discriminate them are not making it easy for them, but on the other hand, there are quite a few of them who are setting a bad example in the eye of the Hungarian society.
In case of American society, they are well harmonized with the gypsy. There are famous people who came from the gypsy. But in European, it's a little bit different story. That people who are living in Europe, they are feeling like some discrimination. Not everybody, of course. They are occupying some tax consumption. Like they are receiving a lot of government support money, but in terms of economic part, they are not, contributing into the tax welfare in Hungary. This is they have complained about this one.
There's a little bit of a misunderstanding here, in a sense that the government is trying its best to increase the population, to increase the future population, and therefore the government is not supporting the gypsies themselves, but rather they support a certain type of family model that only the gypsies have, because the gypsies, they traditionally believe in making many children, bringing many lives to this world. And while we traditional European thinking people, we don't necessarily think the same way, they do, and therefore they end up being the only people who live with the opportunity of support that the government is offering. So whenever a government is issuing a law or support any sort that encourages their sort of family model, we Hungarians think that yes, this is only for the gypsies, although it's not. But many people tend to think that.
So is this what's happening with the new Orban law that will reward women?
That's a good example for that, for example.
But, I read this law and I said, well, I'm a woman and I have 4 children, I'm never going to work for years.
Yeah.
So there's no point in saying you don't have to pay taxes because there's no income.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just like, what? What are they trying to do here?
Yeah. Like if you're even at best, if you bring 4 children, like you're out of work for at least 8 years.
Of course, at minimum of 8 and probably longer.
Yeah, probably longer.
Do you have, I'm wondering, I have never met a Roma person.
No.
In Purina, of course, I see them on the street, and I see when the police stop them, check for their identification. It's very common. In fact, they seem to be the only ones who are ever stopped. I've never been stopped for my identification.
And homeless people.
Homeless people.
Yeah. I grew up around them. I grew up on the countryside, in a village where majority of the population were gypsy children. So I grew up around them in school. I played football with them on a daily basis and everything. So I know how for them, family is everything. So the bond between family members is much, much stronger. And the thing you talked about before, that gypsy people don't experience discrimination in the US, could be the question I'm trying to answer, is that the more gypsy people are around and the larger the families are and more families are next to each other in a certain area, the more likely they are not to accept the tradition of the rules of the Hungarian society. Rather, they feel like that there are so many just like them around that they don't feel like integrating. They don't. They are perfectly comfortable in their own set of traditions then, and that's why they're not so isolated, and therefore, by the Hungarians, they are seen as an outsider group of people who aren't anything like them.
I don't think there's any fire without smoke, so that should explain the situation. So I don't think there would be racism without any reason to begin with. And you mentioned like they're here like 500 years earlier or something.
Yeah, 16th, 15th century.
But why are they still under the poverty line? Why are they not able to still climb up the ladder and make a good living for themselves?
Yeah, only very few families make
society. So yes, if they're not putting any effort, I think they should know what's coming after them. And,
Let me give you some other point of view. That some people, they said it's increasing population for gypsy is more good for European people because of most of people, they are quite young age compared to just normal European people. So that's why it's good for the economic, growing the economic part.
you have the very good local education system probably in some countries, so you'll even get it for free. That sort of system there. But why do they have their own, I forgot the name, I'm sorry, but they have their own Islamic schools. They have their own madrasas, that's the name. Why don't they join their kids in the local public schools, even if it's free? And isn't that the opportunity to integrate into the society? If they really want to integrate, why are they having their own madrasas coming into the Western country? Why are they demanding their own spaces or own schools for their children without actually mixing with the other kids?
For future, yeah, of course, the society they have to accept all of diversity from each of the culture. They should respect also each of the cultures. But on the other hand, we need to think about how we integrate it.
It depends on the
with
people who are
society,
coming in.
with keeping their own cultures. It's very, of course, a hard question. Yeah.
There are areas of life when cultures can mix, and there are areas of life where it cannot. For example, what you talked about before, which is education, for example, is not a place where cultures are allowed to mix, in my opinion. It cannot be, for example, the education cannot be conflicted by cultures. An education cannot be in conflict with religion, ever. Some things should remain separated, right?
Yeah.
Also, in my opinion, the change of generations will gradually bring a solution to this integration issue.
Like say for Islamic countries, the people are coming from, they're coming like, that's how it is, like they're coming from maybe war-torn places, they're like, they just want to live, they want to, we're not asking anything more, we just want to come to this country just to live. Yeah, that's what it's portrayed as.
Yeah.
But they don't want to leave the religion. They're okay to die, but they don't want to leave the religion. They have to get their own the outfits and everything, but they still want to live. But they don't want to leave the religion. So it's quite obvious what they prefer. It's still religion over life.
Yeah.
And you really think that they will be coming into the country to integrate with other religions and other cultures, the way of living? Yeah, it's a question. I mean, anyone can say.
There are almost no migrants in Hungary. Whatever the government says is pretty insane because they don't want to come to Hungary. The language is impossible. They have been pushed away 3-4 years ago, in 2015, when they came to Keleti. Everybody made it the government made very, very clear, get out. So for Hungary, there are no migrants.
No, there aren't.
Virtually none.
No.
Officially, the government announced the numbers of refugees from North Africa and the Middle East. The grand number a few months ago, they had to report it to the European Commission, was about 1,250. That was the number the government reported. Now, it's very few.
Yeah.
So here, it's a political move by the party to make Hungarians terrified of the outside.
I would say atheism is the answer. Atheism. That is like no religion.
No religion.
But that would be the only thing in the future, probably, especially with young millennials also turning to atheism quite a lot. Probably in the future, if we go like it's widespread atheism, then that would be probably a good thing to happen, especially with all the craziness going around.
No religion. So
No religion.
No religion. So everybody, people have to give up their religion, or
Yeah, why not?
Is there any hope?
hope? Yes, I believe.
I believe so too. I'm saying this to a couple things, and I'm gonna sound like I'm 100 years old, but I'm gonna say that times always is always changing things and always solves some problems and brings new ones to the surface. And in time, I mean in the change of generations. So even though there's in the Hungarian case, there's a whole lot of bad blood between gypsy ethnicities and Hungarian people. The situation is slowly but steadily getting better.